the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone. Welcome.
Morning.
Okay, we've got the agenda ahead of us. We've got one addition to make, and that's the receipt of the FAA ordinance that was received last week. And with that, is there anything else to add or delete?
That addition, I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With that, we've got the minutes from last week's board meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I read them, I thought they were very adequate. I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First item on the agenda today is Rolling Hills Community Service Region. And Donna, welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
Morning, Don.
Morning, John.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
You're excellent. The weather's great.
Oh, I know, it's so nice
Sunshine.
to have the sunshine on the drive down this morning, that's for sure. You all, it's my understanding you all have copies of the information that I sent to Courtney for disbursement, okay? Do you want to start or you want me to start, Neil?
I don't think we need a big introduction. Of course, I have been attending and giving you reports of all the Rolling Hills meetings from Don's perspective, I guess, just to have total facts in case I missed one along the way. Don explain it to us. She's going to facts. I think one of the questions Gene asked, and I asked that at the meeting also, is why were the explanation for the recommendation only the positive ones? Well, according to our 28E agree, that's what we're supposed to do, is have the reasons why it is proposed. And Don, being the CEO of the region, is supposed to support the board, and the board voted 5-2 to let Rolling Hills. So, and I was on the Crawford County, and I were on the two side. So I guess that puts Don in a precarious position, but she sticks to the facts. I think we'll be okay.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna do. And I was directed by the board to present the facts and the explanation for the recommendation as it stands. And I have been clear all along that this is the board's decision. This is a big decision, obviously, not to be taken lightly, and I don't think anybody could argue that this board has not completely vetted this decision. They have looked at every aspect of it, and of course, you know, it passed 5-2 on March 7th, so this is why we are in the process of doing the county resolutions. Have you shared with them the county boards, you will be the deciding factor on the vote. So the board made the recommendation to accept Woodbury County, and this recommendation, I will go through the explanations as to why. But then once the member counties vote, it's the majority of the member counties that make the decision as to whether Woodbury County should be allowed to join.
What I didn't explain to him, because it all happened since last Monday, is the idea that the 30 days that we need to make the decision starts after Don's explanation. It doesn't start upon receiving it the other
Right.
day. So there was some discussion whether we should wait until the Woodbury thing gets settled out to have Don stay here, or should we get the facts ahead of time and have the 30 days start ticking? I says, Don, you plan on coming, why don't you come and start
Yeah.
30 days ticking?
Last
And two
week-
counties have already voted, you maybe
Right.
explain that.
Yeah, last week was kind of a whirlwind. Wednesday, I think I had counted up at the end of the day, and I had 28 calls on my cell phone between the board members that are on the governance board trying to figure out the best course of action, because Friday the 13th, Director Foxhoven came out and met with the 3 boards, and he stated that Woodbury County is not going to be accepted. They cannot stand alone, which was their intention for this next year, which is going to be a gap year until they can come in July of 2019. And with that, they were also told that Sioux and Plymouth, if they don't have a place to go in July of 19, that Woodbury can't leave. And that there is no authority in DHS's in the law that allows DHS to prevent a county from leaving, because your 2080 governs your ability to withdraw from a region. So that being said, I called DHS in the morning, I talked with Jan Heikes and asked her. I said, I'm hearing some conflicting information, I need to know what's gonna happen with Woodbury, and she said that they have to stay with Sewell Plymouth next year, and that because they're not viable on their own. And I asked her then some of the concerns that we had and the board had, which is why we delayed the vote, is because if Woodbury County was going to be on their own next year, then it was going to allow them to clean up some of the issues that they have within their own county and take care of some of the funding that is not core that probably needs to be addressed, because they have about $1 million deficit from what they can actually afford. They're using one-time reserves, and they're $1 million over budgeted in Sioux Rivers. So we were hoping that they could take care of a lot of that. It would allow us a year to get everything in order, and then with knowing that they couldn't leave and this was gonna put us in that position, that's why I spent Wednesday on the phone with the board to decide if we really wanted to push this out at this time to the counties. And as Neil said, then he said, just go ahead and come on Monday. I did get a call on Friday morning from Dennis Bush, who serves on the MHDS Commission, and at Thursday's meeting, he specifically asked the question if Woodbury County is going to be allowed to leave Sioux Rivers. And Teresa Armstrong, who's the bureau chief, stated that DHS cannot stop a county from leaving a region. So where they're gonna be, it remains to be seen for next year, but I know they are at the same time as being told that they are seeking a waiver from DHS, and there is a small paragraph in the bill that allows a county to seek a waiver if their situation with the counties that they're in a region with is unworkable. So we still don't know what's gonna happen with them next year, but as Neil said, I'm out here to review the explanations for the recommendation and hopefully answer any questions that you have. All right, so the second sheet, which is this explanation for the recommendation, the governance board recommended adding Woodbury. Because of the geographic size, that it would double our population by bringing in one county versus 6 or 7 smaller counties that it would take to meet the population of almost 200,000. So Woodbury County's population right now is 102,779. And it would increase our population to 198,773. I think that's been kind of a sticking point with a few of the board members, because they felt that at some point, and I don't doubt this at all, we're probably going to be down to 6 or 7 regions across the state. That's purely my opinion. I know Director Foxhoven was asked that question at that meeting on April 13th, and he stated that there are no plans to reduce the number of regions at this time. That may be the case for right now, but as this new bill for the crisis services has passed and it was signed into law by the governor, 6 access centers across the state, I think you can kind of see with moving all of these crisis services into core, we need to spend on our reserves to build these services and have 6 hubs in the state, and I do think at some point that's gonna happen. And then number 3, adding Woodbury County to our region because of their size and the providers that they have. It could assist us with meeting the crisis services that we need to have in place. The bill does not have any dates as far as when these services have to be developed, but I know that DHS is really going to be following the regions closely and making sure that we are using our large reserve balances to invest in these services, because they want a statewide system that is going to meet the needs of especially folks with complex issues. So that was the intention. And then number 4, we have received prior requests to join our region. Carroll was going to, back in 2013, try to be exempted and then decided to join our region. And then Ida County was forced upon us, and then Cherokee County joined, and so far that's been successful. And number 5, I'm not gonna read through all of those, but those were the stipulations that we sent to Woodbury County Board of Supervisors before we even allowed them to engage in discussions with our region, and they agreed to all of those stipulations. And then we've also determined what financially it would take for them to come into our region to meet parity with our fund balance, and they have agreed to that. They need to bring in on July 1st of 2019, $1 million to contribute to our fund balance, as well as be able to provide their 25% first quarter payment and ongoing payments after that. So, and then they also have to make sure that they are able to retain 25% in their reserve balance so that they can contribute on a quarterly basis like the rest of the counties. So, the next document is the memorandum of understanding that needs to be agreed upon by Woodbury County. This was developed as we were trying to develop the recommendations to the county boards. There are some significant concerns on some of the boards' parts, and I think that they fully address some of these concerns. And Woodbury County has to agree to the MOU and these conditions, and if they don't, then we will not accept them into the region next year. So questions, I'm gonna open it up for discussion at this point.
So they've got some issues with some funding practices now, right, in Woodbury County?
They can only, in Sioux Rivers, they can only levy 3049. If they come into our region, they increase to our per capita at the 4279. But as far as funding issues, yes, for this fiscal year, they are $1 million deficit spending.
And they think they're gonna get that straightened out on their own?
If they can increase their levy next year. Plus, they are going to leave Sioux Rivers with some of the reserve funds. And they fully levied the 3049 this year, and the other counties only levied 2258, so I don't know how they're gonna resolve that, because they were planning on going alone next year.
How do you feel yourself about, I mean, that you're gonna be taking on more duties if this happens, considerably more. You okay with that? Huh?
I think it's manageable.
It's what?
It's manageable. How is that for an answer?
That's
It's dodging.
pretty sketchy.
I'll tell you my honest answer. I think as long as Woodbury County can resolve their issues before they come in, it is workable, and I am prepared for the task. But there's a provider group up there that has been threatening lawsuits and discriminatory lawsuits because there's funding for a provider agency through the school district that should not, in my opinion, should not be funded. It's not a mental health service, and it's for children. And our task as regions is to fund adults. So if they could take care of that, I have no problems at all taking on Woodbury. But knowing that we may be dealing with those issues, it does concern me.
I guess that's my question, with this litigation, what is the time frame of that being settled? Does anybody have any idea?
Well, the litigation that we know right now is that their coordinator had filed a lawsuit over a year ago for, I believe it's sexual harassment, or, I don't know. Yeah, it's a bad situation, and that one's supposed to be going to court in May. Now, there is no other litigation that I'm aware of, but there could be.
You said this Fox Haven, is it?
Foxwoman?
He said that he would not allow Woodbury to stand alone for a year.
Mhm.
But the DHS person is saying there's no way
That they can stop
they
it
can
from
do
moving.
that. Neither one has a legal opinion. So,
They did, Foxhoven was directed by Tom Miller, the Attorney General.
so he would have a little more weight there that that's not gonna happen, and the DHS person probably could be incorrect or get overridden in this
Right.
process.
I was telling Neil, as we were visiting before the meeting, that there is, I'm just gonna read it to you, there's a code section, a real small paragraph in the original bill that allows for a waiver. And it says the Director of Human Service shall approve any region meeting the requirements of subsection 3, which is the 3 counties, they have to be contiguous, et cetera. However, the Director of Human Services, in consultation with the State Commission, may grant a waiver from the requirement relating to the minimum number of counties if there is convincing evidence that compliance with such requirement is not workable. So,
Who's the director of DHS?
Yeah, who determines if it's not workable? And Director Foxhoven was the one who told them that they need to be able to work together and resolve their differences and work together this next year.
So with what Foxhole is saying, isn't this kind of taking the wheels off this?
What do you mean?
Kind of stopping this proceed, just saying this ain't gonna happen?
Well, we can proceed with the resolutions because this does not affect us until fiscal year 20. But if they can't leave, this is off the table.
That's what I mean, it's kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and then if they end up financially not being able to meet the stipulations that we put in place, then again, off the table.
Let me ask you a question, you've probably been around more than any one of us. Do you ever get the feeling or idea that there's conflict amongst them supervisors themselves up there?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've watched.
And I guess my
board
question
meetings
is, this
and-
letter that came had only 2 signatures on
Did you see the letter they sent us?
Oh, yes, I did.
it. There's only 2 signatures. Now, when we do something like that, we try to show unity and more strength by having everybody sign.
Mhm.
That sent me a bad signal. And I've been, since this has been going on through ISAC and stuff, I kind of watch what's going on. And I got a feeling that they're not all on the same page.
The Woodbury County Board?
They're all over the place.
Well, Jeremy Taylor is the one who is leading the charge, and Rocky DeWitt, as chair, supports it. And to demonstrate, I know that when it originally passed and they voted on a resolution to join Rolling Hills back in October, it did not pass unanimously. So I did ask Jeremy Taylor last week when I visited with him if the rest of the Woodbury Board has seen the MOU and agreed to it, because he's agreeing to it. And he said that he has shared all of the stipulations in that MOU with the board verbally, but they had not seen that MOU.
So if that's not a unanimous vote to join, then what is the opinion of the other 2 possibly what do they want to do?
They want to stay, the one that keeps casting the dissenting vote wants to stay with Supervisors.
Oh, it's just one?
Mhm.
Wants to stay where they're at?
Mhm. Actually, it was 3-2 last fall, but since then there have been other things in regards to Rolling Hills that have been passing 4-1, but it was 3-2. Pretty sure, anyway.
Okay, well, I voted no on behalf of this board at our Rolling Hills meeting. Partly I'm not buying into the population thing quite as heavily as some of the other members are, and I understand their point of view where it's better to take them when they want to come under our term as being forced upon if that would happen. If that would happen is debatable whether or not it will happen. I don't know who's right there. So, yes, that's one advantage, is that we would achieve the population size. I see quite a difference in adding Woodbury County. It would change us from a rural mental health area to an urban mental health, because most of Woodbury County is urban. It would quite a change of attitude. I think they've not gotten along in their region. Our region basically has gotten along with each other very well. Not that we agree in everything, but we very professional, very well managed. And a good example of the attitude of us is we've always been our votes for new services, it's got to be sustainable is what we've said. They've got a little different attitude, which is apparent in their funding of things that are not core services that are not sustainable. And so there's going to be quite a different attitude. And my vote against it was basically that Rolling Hills was going pretty good, and I don't think they are going to benefit us at all, or very much, or in the bottom line, it'd be a benefit to Rolling Hills, so that's why I voted against it. And I think that's sort of summarizes why Crawford County also voted against it. There have been 2 counties that voted so far.
Cherokee passed it 3-2, and Buena Vista 5-0.
5-0. So those 2 counties have voted to pass, to accept these. I assume that Crawford County will vote against it. We don't have it on the agenda, just review. It's, so we won't vote on it today, we can give it some more thought. But we have to vote within 30 days if we want to approve it, particularly because if we do not respond within 30 days, it's a no vote is negative vote.
So that, the way that this goes by, each county has 1 vote, right?
Right.
Not by the members, it's by the county.
One vote.
One county, one vote.
That's advantageous to the region.
One good thing if Woodbury would join is that it is not a weighted vote, that they would
Right.
carry the weight, don't understand that.
What is, say Buena Vista, for example, what do they see good about this situation?
The population size, Dale Aarons he was not in favor of taking Woodbury, and I was surprised last week that he did vote for it, but he felt that the memorandum of understanding had enough safeguards in place for the region, that if they want to join, he sees no reason to deny them, because we're completely protected by our agreement. But I think that it's more the population size and then helping us to be able to achieve core. But I know Paul, he's vacillated back and forth as well as I think a lot of us have, because we don't have any assurance that the population size is a valid argument. We're just, speculating that this is probably gonna happen. I do
Cause
believe.
more headaches.
Yeah, sometime it's gonna happen, but.
Okay, then, on Cherokee side, what do they see about this? Because Cherokee was one of the counties that wanted to get away from Woodbury one time.
Probably the same thing. I think that Dennis Bush, having served on the Supervisors board at one time they were 6 months and then they joined us. He understands the position that Woodbury County is in because there is a lot of 2-to-1 votes and I want to say mismanagement because I don't know, that's just what I hear. But the governance board and the way they operate is not, I think that there's just been a lot of strife, and so then he understands the position Woodbury's in and is probably leaning on their side because of it. But Rick Mongan, who's the board chair for Cherokee, he had requested that they not vote and take the time to reach out to Sue and Plymouth, get their perspective, because we're only hearing from Woodbury, and he really did not want to take action on it that day, but then a motion was put on the floor and seconded, and there were 2 dissenting votes, so.
I guess I look at this thing, the only positive thing I see out of this is what Don mentioned earlier, is the crisis care center. If we got those numbers there, that's one of the things that they're gonna look at. But as far as all the other things, I see it as a negative. There's too many things that are unsettled.
This would be an 8-person, if it would pass, this would be an 8-person.
Mhm.
So then you've got that locking possibility on a lot of different subjects.
I think if it is a 4-4 vote, that does become a weighted vote.
It does, but.
Then it becomes a weighted
Weighted
vote.
Yeah, so on a 4-4 tie, Woodbury break every tie.
Okay.
Huh.
Puts them in the power seat.
It would, but historically, our board's been really congruent on most votes. I mean, you might have something that you have 1 member or 2 members that are
That could
not in
change now.
agreement.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
going, first of all,
Something that
you
big
probably,
in there, that could change
you must have done too good a job, that's why they want in this region. So, but the problem I'm seeing is, I'm with Neil here. Yeah, we've got along great, but we've been a with rural-based cores. Now we bring in this urban change. doesn't benefit the rural, and what we're doing doesn't really benefit them as much as, probably benefits them some, but it doesn't benefit them all the way that they'd like to see it. But I just see a little toe-to-toe coming a lot of the time. And I think it's just because it's just the nature of the two personalities. And I think if we ever go to these 6 regions, we're gonna see that play out there. Urban and rural mixed together is gonna be a fight.
Well, and I think if it look, Sioux City's probably gonna be the regional hub for that 6th, you know, if there were 6. They
Yeah.
would probably be the regional hub
Possibly.
for northwest Iowa.
Unless
And then
they-
then the rules all change at that point. I mean, then you're going up to Dickinson County. I mean, you're taking that whole area. I mean, then we're just out. I mean, the numbers are gonna get so diluted that.
Yeah.
Well, if they have 6 centers, there's quite a few more regions that people have to go out of the region. So
Sure.
whether they're within the
I mean, the
regional
control,
top-
the
Yeah.
control is gonna be gone at that point in time for all the
I
counties.
think the control's gonna be gone anyhow.
Yeah, yeah. What are the chances of the other 2 counties joining our region? Being Forest or being...
Well, I did have a board member ask me about taking Plymouth because it would change the balance of the power of the board for next year if Woodbury stays with Supervisors. And I said that I feel completely overwhelmed enough right now trying to get this decision with Woodbury. The thought of taking some in Plymouth, I said, no, I think let's just deal with Woodbury right now. There is always a chance that they could request to join. Plymouth County early on said that they would join if Woodbury County left. They would try to join Rolling Hills. But now there's been a lot of water under the bridge with that board and a lot of damage to the relationships, and I don't see that happening now. I think that the Plymouth and Sioux members are just ready to move on and look at their options, and the meeting on the 13th was pretty contentious when Woodbury walked in.
I think they're talking to the group north of them, aren't they?
That's kind of what I get the feeling.
I thought so too, but I had a meeting last Monday morning with the
And then what
CEO.
was with the OCO and
O'Brien.
O'Brien and Lyon is what I had heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
But the meeting that I had with the CEO from that region last week, I asked her specifically if those 2 counties are looking to leave, and she said, no, that is not the case. She said that those were rumors started by the Sioux Rivers Board. So,
But it's a thought.
yeah, if they are looking at options, I would think now, the way things have played out in the media, over the last 6 months, that those 2 counties would probably look to Northwest Iowa Care Connections, not our region with Woodbury,
Yeah,
if we end up with them.
probably.
On the positive side, Woodbury couldn't be nicer to us now. They want in.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been very, very good.
I got 2 different answers when I talked to 2 different supervisors.
Yeah, I know. And all of the known big problems we've addressed in the, memorandum of understanding, things like that. It's the unknowns that concern me. And one of the knowns that does concern me, of course, is just their attitude, how terrible they got along there. And I hate to have that happen to our region if they join our region and have a change of attitude. I don't know if we have a bait and switch here or not, I don't know.
I've heard that comment from Sioux County, that it'll be a bait and switch from a year from after they're in, said, look out.
I've heard all the warnings, yeah.
And I've talked to several of the Plymouth and the Sioux County supervisors and asked them what they thought of us letting Woodbury County in. Their unanimous remark is, take them, we don't want them anymore. They're burned out according to that. And I hate to see that happen in Rolling Hills, I really do, because it's done.
Well, and I
said,
agree.
it's run
We've got-
so well.
You've got such a good group right now, and things are working so well, and they have the same philosophies. And then throw somebody in there that upset the apple cart?
You know, and I just look at the the sixth region situation, and I think that's gonna happen
Right.
sooner than what any of us want it to, and.
Maybe that's
and
why
this-
he's telling them you can't leave.
and-
Well, and-
Yeah, and.
Because he knows
I-
it's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, Dean, because this fall there is a designated fiscal viability study committee that has to meet and look at the financial stability of the regions and then make a recommendation and report to the legislature in the 2019 session, and I think that that could start the ball rolling. Because there are regions that can't meet all these requirements. We can't meet all the requirements on our own. An access center alone is gonna cost a ton of money.
Right.
Let alone the additional things we have to do. So,
If you have any questions for Dawn, I'll be here at the next meetings, but she won't be. So now's your chance to ask questions.
Well, I guess my thing is that I think there's a bigger problem coming. I don't care, obviously it looks like we're probably, Sioux City's probably gonna join us. Woodbury's gonna join us, but, I would certainly like to make sure that all their ducks are in line before that ever happens. They got a lot of cleaning up to do, and we just have to keep their feet to the fire on that, I guess. Because it's probably all gonna happen, but that's the only thing that we got any leverage on is to make sure that,
and Rick, as board chair, has been very strong in the fact that if Woodbury County doesn't follow their provisions, when it gets to be next spring, if they can't meet the financial expectations, they're out. But Rick isn't gonna be on the board next year. This is his last year.
January 1.
So we're gonna need to, whoever serves as chair next year is going to have to be able to strong arm.
We, as a board, as Rolling Hills, we've addressed everything we could think of with the memorandum of understanding between the two counties. It's what we haven't thought of that concerns me.
yes, exactly.
Which is any business transaction.
Sure.
It's what you know is gonna hurt you, it's what you don't see. is
Well,
gonna
and
hurt you.
it's just, how to
It-
say this without getting myself in trouble. Just from what I hear about that county, it seems like everything they get into that they have issues. There's always some sort of pot stirring or gnawing in the background, and that bothers me.
Well, I think we need to put this on the agenda for a vote within the next month, not necessarily next week, but at some point. We need to, I think we should take a vote rather than let it die naturally. I guess I call it what do they call that, a veto by, silent veto or something.
Yeah, non-action.
Pocket veto?
Pocket veto is the term I was looking for, but I think we should vote on next week or the week after, whatever this board feels comfortable with. Any closing comments or any questions for Don while we
Do
have
you
her
think
here?
there's any more coming out of DHS or out of Foxhole that's gonna change this thing?
I don't know. If they're applying for the waiver, I think that would be helpful to know that answer from DHS. I do know that Foxhoven said at that meeting on the 13th that he would be issuing an administrative decision. But I don't know how fast they will move on that. If I hear, I will let you know.
His decision is, I would guess, is probably,
Appealable in Woodbury
yeah,
County's mind.
and directed probably towards the 6th. He knows what's coming up. And I'm sure that that's playing into his decision as well.
Did you all see the article that, Neil saw it, because I sent it, did you forward that on the board, that link to the Sioux City Journal article?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Because that's really what he was saying, is that they need to work together for this next year, so I don't know that he's gonna budge on that. And then we'll have to look at next spring if they can meet the financial conditions to come in.
Yes, my gut feeling
Kind of
is-
ties them up too, they don't know where they're at too.
No.
They've been jumping ahead thought it's a good plan, quite a bit. I guess you have to give them credit, they're not afraid of change or exploring the unknown. And not afraid of change either, I like to be prudent about it, especially when it's Carroll County, and it's not my money, it's taxpayer money and taxpayer services of this region. So I'm a little more conservative with the public funding than I am with my own.
Don't you think that this region will change if they join us?
Oh, there's definitely.
I
a
mean,
big change.
there's gonna be more urban issues that we're gonna have to deal with,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be a bigger burden on
That's
our
gonna take-
system?
Yeah, that's gonna take a lot of work. I will not deny that. Fortunately, the rest of the region is running very smoothly. And that was a concern of mine early on, is that our provider network is fantastic. We have a coalition that meets on a regular basis. We have very good support and camaraderie amongst all of our providers, and we work together to develop services. It's not anybody dictating what needs to happen. We are in it for the same reason.
I don't think they've got that up there.
There are providers that do not want this, and that was a concern of mine from the start and continues to be, because that ship isn't gonna turn overnight.
I guess my gut feeling at this point is sit this thing out for 2 weeks and see if anything happens between the state.
Which is
Yeah.
why we were gonna delay the rest
Yeah.
of the votes, and then after Dennis Bush called me Friday, Rick suggested that we just not delay it. He said, let's just move forward, so then I sent out another email Friday to all the board members to let them know that Rick wants us to consider just moving this forward and getting a decision, and I've only heard back from Cecil Bloom, who said, no, let's wait on it, there's no rush. And Paul Merton from BB said that he would prefer that we move this along so that we're not losing time that we could be planning for next year instead of pushing out later.
Well, I definitely think we wanna do a vote, we don't wanna let this just go silent.
No.
But I would say let's hold off as long as we can.
Yep. that's-
Okay,
that
the
would
longest
add-
we can hold off is to May 21st.
May 21st? That sounds good enough to me.
That's fine, me, too.
Yep.
In case anything else plays out on this thing,
Yep.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you informed.
because I don't think this thing is over with yet.
No.
If it's okay, this board, let's plan on voting on May 21st.
May 21st, I have no
Sounds
problem
good
with
to me.
that.
That'd be my suggestion.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Don, thank you for
All
coming.
right, I
Thanks,
appreciate
Don.
it. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
I can tell you to keep up the good work, but that's what caused this problem to begin with.
I try my best.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, with that, we'll go down to item number 2, is to set the public hearing for the Carroll County ordinance number 14 zoning regulation change.
Oh, that's a big one, too. Just,
Good morning, Carl.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carl.
Tis the season for construction. We've had an issue in the villages about people wanting to put up privacy fences. And there actually was provision in the ordinance for it, but it said that the maximum height on a privacy fence was 5 feet. And I don't know, it's kind of short depending on how tall you are, I guess, for a privacy fence. So I kind of looked at some of the other ordinances around the state, and 7 feet was a pretty average height for a privacy fence. If anybody wanted to go higher than that, they could certainly go to the Board of Adjustment, look for a variance for a reason. And I wanted to clarify also in it that there's no setback required for a fence, you know. And one of the other issues, township trustees actually are charged with fence
Fencing.
issues or disputes. Those are all unincorporated areas, so technically, township trustees might have to get involved in any kind of a fence dispute. But we just basically wanted to raise up the height to a 7 foot, and then just kind of clarify that you put that on the property line, you don't have to set it back 2 foot or whatever. one of the concerns of doing a setback then not on the property line is that all of a sudden you forget to mow it and the neighbor starts mowing it, and then pretty soon you've got adverse possession, or, you know, after a fashion, issues, so, most people just, you put it on the fence line or on the property line, just like you would a normal fence out in the county.
Okay, I have a question. If setback requirements do not apply, I have no problem with 3 sides of the property. What about the road side of the property?
Yeah, some ordinances actually address that and say, you know, you've got a height restriction on the front side. We've got a corner setback, you know, so that there's no visibility
Obstruction,
issues.
yeah.
I don't know that it's, we haven't had an issue with it for one thing, but some of them would like restrict a fence to 4 foot. We don't have that currently in our ordinance, and the zoning commission really didn't see a need to address it, but it could be. The other ones would have like a 4 foot or a 3 foot. And,
So do you have on a corner, then you have a
we said you
setback?
can't have any visual obstruction within 20 foot of the corner. City of Carroll has a 70 foot, which is kind of,
Wow, we,
yeah.
I think downtown was 47 and a half.
And, you know, for us, that actually would translate, 20 and 20 would translate to just under 30 foot diagonal. 70 foot was the diagonal for the City of Carroll, so it wasn't 70 foot, you know, back in the corner. But still, that would pull it back a ways, even from us. Ours says no obstruction of visibility, so that would be a judgment call probably for the sheriff's department. Or,
so what stimulated this conversation?
Neighbors not getting along with neighbors, let's put it that way.
Okay,
So I just wanted to, and it's come up before. I just thought, let's get it taken care of before we have an issue with it.
you have to have a permit to put up a fence?
That's the way it's been in the ordinance. We could put it in there that you don't have to. I don't get a permit for, you know, farm fences, things like that. It's just mostly like a privacy fence.
It's not a lot of privacy, it's only 5 feet tall.
Right, that was the issue, that, yeah, it seemed a little bit short.
Mhm.
I can stand and look over it, so.
Me too.
Yeah.
So what you'd like us to do is set a public hearing for this date, this
For that
amendment.
modification, yeah,
And the biggest change is going from 5 to 7 feet.
right.
What dates do we have available? Courtney?
How long did that have to be published?
I'm guessing
I
in the
want 2
pub-
weeks out, yeah.
Okay, so we're at the 23rd today?
Yeah, like the 14th.
Be the earliest.
of May.
Of May.
Can you make that work, Courtney?
Let me take a peek here. Yeah, do you want to do like 9:30, 10, 9, 15?
10's pretty typical, so.
Okay. Now, is that going to be the introduction and first reading, or will it be the second reading?
Whatever you guys decide. If there's no controversy, I mean, you can waive them.
Okay.
Do the first reading.
Waive the second and third.
Okay.
I doubt if it's gonna be highly controversial.
Well, I'll move then. I promise it won't be controversial then. I'll move to have 10 a.m. on May 14th.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? If not, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
You don't have to answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks, Carl.
You're welcome.
Carl, for your information, we've added a 12th item to the agenda today, and that was to accept that FAA letter that we received.
Okay.
We're going to receive it to make sure we have a date clearly stamped on
Okay,
it.
sounds good.
Thanks.
I kind of intend to meet with the city of Glidden and the city of Carroll and talk about logistics.
Repercussions?
Mm.
Logistics.
I'll visit with you after this meeting,
Okay.
Courtney, and I got somebody else I'm talking to too.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we'll go down to item number 3, is the receipt of the fiscal 17 county audit. Courtney had that in her packet.
So, historically, we've acknowledged getting receipt of these. So they are, made sure everybody had a copy, and I think the most interesting things to me are usually at the back of the audit, where it talks about the findings and things. A lot of them are same from year to year. There's a few different ones. Nothing that caused me any great concerns. Of course, you'd like to see no findings at all, but I don't know that that's ever going to happen either. But yeah, I don't really have any issues with it. I just wanted to acknowledge that we received it and everybody got a copy.
Courtney, let me ask you this question. We've done, the state has done the auditing for years. Would it be beneficial to, in our findings here, would it be beneficial to maybe look elsewhere to have an audit done?
I'm not sure. I did have somebody tell me that has been around way longer than me, that at one point we did have another firm do it, but then we still had to have the state do something, so we were almost paying for it twice.
Twice?
I don't know if that's accurate or not. I do know there's cities that have private accounting firms do their audits, but
Are there many or any counties who have someone other than the state do their audit?
oh, I'm sure there is, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's several private firms do it. But they
Maybe.
have to be qualified to do this government types.
Well, we also, they also do our gap report for us, which is the one that takes into account the accruals we have at the end of the year, which is kind of a nice, unique service that they offer us. I'm sure if we went a different route, we could be done another way, but, yeah, I mean, I'm open for whatever.
So you don't really see a big advantage staying?
I guess
or-
I don't know, because I'm not sure what the cost would be if you went
Yeah.
with a private firm, if it'd be more expensive, if it'd be as detailed of an audit, I don't know.
Not many years ago, wasn't it?
It's
We did.
before my time. They've always been here since I've been here.
At one time, we looked into it, and actually, nobody else wanted the job.
That's right.
That we put out for bid. I don't think anybody else
Yeah,
even
took it.
bid.
But sometimes it's nice to get a different set of eyes.
Well, if you look at, a lot of times they recommend, and we always bid out 3 years on new opportunities. They say you should do it every 3 years. Look at getting somebody-
Considering something else.
I have no objection to, bidding it out or whatever.
If you see fit to it, I mean, if you, in your
Could maybe ask
conversations.
some of my auditor friends what they think.
Yeah, I mean,
and
if,
we can
yeah,
go from
during
there.
your conversations, if.
Yeah, we have our state meeting where everybody's there in July, and that's usually when everybody's.
Information like that gets passed around.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, very good. Don't be afraid to ask, because I think I'd be open to considering doing something else.
Yeah,
When would be a good time to do that if we did it?
probably now, because they'll
I
be
mean-
coming in July.
So it wouldn't
to
be
get
this,
started.
this audit this season, but maybe after the next one, then we might consider doing it next
Yeah,
time.
'cause they usually come about July. July's when we start getting, I shouldn't say they.
By the time you
We
find
start
out.
getting stuff ready for them, and then they
Yeah.
come back in November, and.
The window would be awful short
It
to
is.
try to
It
do it
is.
if we decide to change vendors.
But if we
maybe
were
then-
to get somebody from outside, they would still have to answer to the state.
Correct.
And the state could have requirements that,
It's kind of.
If they can.
An
Other
example
firms
of that
can't.
would be.
Yeah.
Could be.
The state received a complaint of a department that we had, and they came in and did their own internal audit. The state could do that too. So, but, I mean, any county has that issue.
Okay.
At this point, I'd like to acknowledge receipt of the FY17 county audit.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Now, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, the next item is number 4, is City Coon Rapids, Iowa Great Place letter. I got a call last week from Doug Carpenter, and I referred him to Courtney as far as doing a letter of support for Great Places. I don't know if we've got that old letter from,
Yeah.
put something together with that, and then sign off on that, just as a letter of support is kind of what they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he sent me, is kind of a model to go off
Template,
of. So
yeah.
what, you know, if you guys wanted to do that, I would just put it on the board supervisor's letterhead and have Marty sign it. And then we'd mail it into them.
So you want a pre-vote on that, or do you want to wait
Well,
until you
I'd
do
say
it?
just authorize the chair to sign.
I'd like to
letter
make a
in
motion
support of
that-
it, I guess.
I'd make a motion that we have the chair sign the letter that him and yourself comprise and send out.
Together.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Now, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, with that, actually, we'll drop down to Daryl sitting here. Daryl, do you have anybody else coming, or just you?
Just me.
We'll drop down to number 6, and that way Daryl can keep moving. Ambulance department update.
Thank you, guys. How are you today?
Good. How you doing, Daryl?
Hi, Courtney.
Good morning.
I ain't got much, I'm not gonna take much of your time, but just a couple things I want to bring up. As soon as I find my paper. That training mannequin that I've been working on, between grants and donations, got it coming. All paid for, not costing anything out of the county budget. So we got that coming, so we'll get that done. I lost my full-time, part-time help, Jessie Halber was her name. She, for personal reasons, left the area. At one time, you guys authorized 2 positions for that permanent part-time. I have one gonna start in June because I don't need him till then. And I have another lady interested, so I should be able to have those both filled, so hopefully that'll cut down on the full-timers' hours. Autopsies have gone up $500 a piece for the minimum. I'm sure you guys already heard that, but that rig with the DEF system, we thought we had it fixed. We don't. We're on Plan G now. I got hold of the guy from GM. He's got somebody else looking into it. They've got a piece that I forget what it's called going up to Mackey's once they get it in, and we're gonna try to replace that again. He's working well with us. We're still working on it. A couple things I wanted to talk about was I'm running out of room down there with our files. We got run reports from who knows when. Started with the state, went to John, they kinda shoved it back and forth on each other, but anyhow, John finally come up with it. If I keep them 7 years, I can get rid of anything past 7 years. I got I thought it was 12, but it's 14 file cabinets full of reports. I can't quite go all paperless because of the signatures we have to keep on file and stuff like that. So if nobody's got any objections, then we're gonna start sorting out some of those papers, get down to like 7 years, so I got some room to run again.
I just have one recommendation. And
Yes,
this was
sir.
given to me from the state, like, when you do take a lump sum of something you're gonna shred,
Mhm.
if you just maybe document what you're shredding, you know, like, that way if they would ever come in and say, we need this, and you can say, no, on this date, we destroyed these
Okay.
documents by shredding or whatever.
I can do that.
I
That
would
wouldn't
say
be
don't
hard to do.
shred it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get a deal out of her shred. That's the part of my speaking there. I already talked to him, it's not gonna cost me that much, and we're gonna get a room right, cause you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Rich and I had a meeting with Manny, on this workman's comp thing, but one thing we both found out was there's never been a agreement on what Carroll and the satellites, who covers what. That's on anything, who pays for the fuel, who does everything, so I'm working on basically an E-20 agreement with the services. Gonna start with Manny and get that done. So working on that. One thing I found out the other day is we haven't been getting Medicaid payments because of case management and that deal going on there.
Courtney has explained it to us,
Yeah.
so we know where we're at with
I'm
that.
Just like-
still waiting to hear back from them. I
Well-
think what we decided was that
Yeah.
we'd make sure that you guys got your funds back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
and
We're gonna
we'd
try to
get this
solve that.
fixed.
Yeah, just letting you guys know that,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's all I needed. And the last thing I wanna bring up is, I'm not quite sure what to do. I've got a whole lot of vacation days that I'm not gonna get used up. I am short on sick days. I was wondering if I could put part of them into my sick time and then figure out what to do with the rest later. But between with all that's happened last year, there's no way I can get them done. Don't need an answer today, just
How many days we're talking about?
20, 22 to be exact.
What did you want to slide into you said move them into your sick? time?
Yeah, I've not maxed out on sick time, and I thought, well, if you guys think Carrie put some in there, you know, but I just got.
How many days could you get rid of doing that?
Heck, I didn't bother to look, Rich, before I came home.
Okay.
As I walked out the door, I thought I'd better figure out how many days I had, because I knew somebody'd ask me that. That's, just need to figure out
I
what to do.
can see
with
one
these.
benefit to that. Is if you left, we wouldn't have to pay you for them.
Oh, yeah.
But I can also.
Is that a hit, Courtney?
No, I can also see another.
If you leave, we don't have to pay you for
But I
them.
can also see another benefit, because I know you had been sick, and you probably did burn up some of your sick.
These wheels right out underneath you, didn't she?
I
He
can
knows,
say,
he knows I
Courtney.
like him. As I said, I was
That's
looking
what
forward to
scares me.
seeing him today,
Yeah.
and he didn't believe me.
So, don't need an answer now, guys.
Yeah, I see an advantage to you to do it, because you can't carry over annual leave, you can't carry over sick leave.
Yeah. As Courtney knows, I went through a ton of sick days the last few years. So, yeah, just bring it up. You guys let me know what I can do with them sometime, and I'll get out of your hair.
But at the
Unless you
same
got something
time, you
else.
do need to kind of take care of yourself. 'cause
I
we're
do,
once a year,
yeah,
so.
I know.
And it
But-
has been
Yeah.
standard practice, if we've had somebody that hasn't been able to use them, we do pay them out for vacation time, too.
It's just been a different year.
And I understand, and I
So-
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But what I'm saying, I want to see you healthy too.
Believe me, I'm not wanting to spend any more time than I have to, so if I can get out, I get out.
Good.
The place lives without me.
Just offhand, it's, I'm trying to think about this, I think we should check with Renee on this, I don't want to set a precedent, you know.
That's fine.
because,
Right.
That would be the only thing that I would see.
Okay, That's
Yeah.
fine.
Good
I just
companies.
got-
I don't know why it would, but.
And maybe she thinks it's a great idea and we should jump on it, which.
We can bring that up in our May meeting with her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, let's
play
do
with
that.
that.
Let's
Yeah.
do that.
That'll work.
So I'll do this as part of my weekly report while Daryl's here. Let's jump back to the Manning situation. The Manning situation, we went down and met with them. They have currently 15 people that are not covered at all with workman's comp. After the meeting, I came home on Friday and I called Terry and called Mid-Iowa, and I put those 15 people back on ours temporarily until we find out about this 28E, how we're gonna handle this. They had one excellent point that got me to that point. And I'll explain it while Daryl's here and try not to dance around this as lightly as possible, is we had a EMT paramedic situation in Manning that the procedures were not being followed, but the procedures were, am I right, the procedures were
The guy was a paramedic and he wasn't doing near what his job. He
Job
was
required.
Starting to be a liability for the county.
liability. So, what we did is we called down there, their employee, you need to terminate. They couldn't because they had no reasoning. So now Pat had to go down and terminate, which that shows them that's our employee. But yet, they sat across the table from me and said they pay IPERS on that employee, so that tells me that's their employee. So here we are again with the liability city. So and they did bring this up, and I think it's a very valid thing. We need to, I think that's what we need to do, is we need to bring Coon Rapids, Manning, Rita, Carroll, and I'm gonna ask Marty, being he's chair, to join in on these meetings, and we'll hammer out a 28E, who's paying for what the compensation's gonna be. If this rent needs to go up, fine. If it needs to come down, fine. But we're gonna get this ironed out. Who is paying for everything? And what I'm afraid of is this was done in a good old boys network with a handshake, and there wasn't a lawsuit standing on every corner. And now we have that situation. So I think it'd be prudent for everybody to protect themselves as best they can.
Rich, you mentioned those major ones, but what about the other ones, like the Helvers and the Devons? I'm not so sure that should be a 2080
Well,
there, too.
we very well could bring those in too, Gene. The only reason I left those out this time is most of those are first responders, and most of those people belong to the fire department situation, where they're already covered. But I sure would like to have their input on this, whether they join it to 28E, or they think they should be in, or think they should be out.
Like Templeton, conditional transport, right?
And see, Templeton should be in on this too.
Well, and I have no problem bringing in all the
Yeah.
incorporated communities.
Yeah, well, because Templeton's got a county rig, so, you know, they need to come in too. But I think what we need to do first is get those 4 done, and then worry about the Halbers, Lanesboro's, Glidden's, and those guys. You know, so we can kind of get, those are the 4 big ones right there that we gotta get done, I
It's just,
think.
we have some people hanging in limbo.
Did
and
you arrest them all pretty well, the fire department's taking care of them now?
I know in my town, there's 2 that are not on the fire department, that are kind of in limbo, and right now, they're not worried about it, because they don't know.
The problem I see if we take it on is, these communities, people come and go all the time. It is going to be just a paperwork nightmare for us to try to keep up with all this. That's why I would like the Burke to be out there. They control it a little bit more, they can know who's going on. We don't do background checks on any of these people. Do they say, put this person on? We just put them on. There's a lot of.
Our work comp's set up to where it's just kind of a number.
Blanket.
They don't have every count, they do when they do the audit, but like throughout the year, you know, they come in once a year, do an audit, they look at payroll, they look how many people we have doing this kind of job, this kind of job, this
Right.
kind of job, and that's how they.
Yeah, and that'll be a group, but they also need to have the names of those people, so that when if they would make a claim, they can say yea or nay. So it kind of makes we need to iron this out a little bit harder, and I think times have changed, and I
You
think
might
that's.
want to have Becky in on this because, at Rhodes, because she's the one that handles the work comp claims for the county.
Okay.
With the insurance company.
Yeah.
So.
And the reason that Pat had to go down and get rid of that guy in Manning is because, you know, we're the ones that go through the reports, we're the ones that gotta make sure everything's up to snuff. The people in Manning never saw what he was doing, what he was writing. They had no idea how bad it was. And I was doing quality control at the time, and every time I saw his name, it was just printed out because there was something. And I found when Pat went down and said, we gotta do something before he does something very bad. So that's why Pat went down to handle that, because Manning didn't know, and, well, he wouldn't listen to them anyhow. But, yeah, and that's still the way, every time they write a report, we review it up here, and I sent Amy a bunch of stuff saying, hey, you gotta get on these people that do a better job, because it boils down to it, they got the crew, but we're responsible for making sure they do it right. So,
Well, I think you're on the right track to try and get 2080.
I just, I've tried to solve this a couple, 3 times, and it's like the Jelly of the Month Club, it just keeps on giving. Every month, it seems like it comes around again, so I think it's time to maybe get it ironed out. I don't know, Dean, you got an opinion on this at all, or?
Well,
In a Reed area?
well, I just, don't make, what I would be concerned about is making a bigger deal out of it than what it really is. And, you know what I mean?
Just keep it simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep it as simple as possible, and, Courtney's looking at numbers, and if that's what it is, do we have to make it as,
Well, I don't think we're talking about a cost here.
we're not talking much cost
It is
either.
minimal. I
Yeah,
think.
$600 and some dollars or something like
Yeah.
that.
For
I
a
mean-
2080?
No, for
coverage.
coverage for the.
Yeah,
for
about
the-
$600.
The only
Yeah.
time it's gonna be expensive is if somebody gets hurt.
That's right,
You
that's
know.
exactly right, and I don't want any of those people to.
Absolutely
The
not.
problem is, they're not gonna have any volunteers, because people are gonna say, look, I'm not covered, I'm not gonna do this, it's too
Yeah.
much risk for $15.
Right.
Yeah, my thing is, just don't make it too encumbered, too cumbersome, so that it requires a lot of maintenance.
For what that costs, we could just assume the whole works.
Yeah.
I thought about that too.
I mean, that'd be the easiest way to.
I don't know if that makes a paperwork nightmare for people that come and go all the time. I need to find that out I have to talk, visit with Becky, and then I have to visit with probably Terry or his representative at that time.
You know, I don't think we want to put that on to Darrell or Courtney
Well,
or.
we got a list of them. You guys maintain
I get a list of them, but like Rich said, especially Coon Rapids, they have turnover after turnover. And
Okay.
Paulette's not very good. It reminded me, and every now and then since I've been in charge, I'll send her off an email saying I need a current list.
Okay.
And I will get it from her, but she does not keep me up to date when somebody leaves, somebody comes on either.
You know, and that, there in comes the issue of, is if you have a number, everybody that should be covered, that's responding. But if you need a name, and they are on there, and they are working, but they're not on the list, then they're not covered.
That's an issue.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you want to drill down on that, but,
Yeah.
If we need a name, they're just gonna have to start sending me like a monthly list.
Yeah.
Just have to keep on them or every 2 months.
Well, I think the
or something
city
like
clerks are probably pretty good about getting information that, I don't know that for sure. I don't know how Jessica is in Coon Rapids. I've not been around her, but not very
I
much.
don't think you need to, rather than reinvent the wheel, are there other counties that have the same situation that it?
We're the only ones that have an ambulance set up like this, where you can go. Oh, I've asked these questions at
Well, isn't
supervisor.
Dallas-
Yeah, we're a unique deal.
We're pretty unique.
But Dallas is county run, isn't it? Of
Dallas,
course, that's all paid, though, is it? I don't know if they don't have.
Pretty
any-
much all paid.
It's like
They
having.
don't have the first responders? See, that's
It's like
what-
having paid people in Manning and paid people in Breda and paid people, you know, and I
Sac
don't know if we
County
want to
can-
get that far.
Sac County can kind of be the same as us, because they've got responders and they've got satellites around, but when I asked the director up there about it, he says, right now, we just don't bring it up. They don't want to know, they don't want to because it's gonna cost, he's afraid what's gonna happen, so he says, in other words.
They don't wanna
exact
open
words
can
were,
of worms
"Baker,
like
keep
we
your
got
mouth
into."
shut."
Exactly, Dean, exactly. I think this is, no matter what, we've gotten so muddy here that.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be less specific. Dean used the term not drill down. For example, you said rent needs to go up front, needs to go down 20. D doesn't have to have a rent amount. Maybe you should say who's paying the rent, you know.
Mhm.
Be a little more general, and I think we're more concerned about responsibilities rather than dollar amounts.
I think rent was used as a term to cover this situation
Yeah.
in the olden days, but like I said, when the lawsuits stand on each corner, our liabilities are slowly increasing. I'm sorry to say we live in that kind of world. I wish we didn't, but.
And what I'm doing is I'm getting down in paper, you know, like Danny's responsible for this. You know, not on the work comp or anything, just on equipment, documentation, keeping everything up to date. We will supply this, they will supply that, because there's never been anything in writing, and so far, everybody's covered, but it's like, if we're doing this, we gotta get it all down.
And I kind of got the same question down there that I've gotten 3 or 4 other times is, well, we're so profitable. And I ask them, which part of that profit you'd like? And I don't get a response, so. Because I know that we spend a lot of money on the ambulance, and a lot of people don't realize it. We bill $1,100. You don't necessarily get $1,100.
I just went from July of 2017 to July 1st of 2017 to the end of February. And I figured out how to get just Manning's totals of patients. And then I went through one by one and what we charged, what we collected, you know. And I haven't got a total because I just got it done, and I forgot I got it done, to be truthful. But I'm gonna just go through that and show them, this is what we charge, but this is what we collect. And it's nothing against Manning, because it's the same here.
They all do a good job.
Yeah,
It's
they do a
just
good job.
That's what
We only,
paid.
insurance companies rule the world, they only pay us so much. And like Medicaid, you know, once you collect out of them, you're done. You know, you can't go after anything else, so.
Okay.
One other thing I was gonna quick show you, this is something from 5807. They were applying for a grant, it shows the number of calls for 4, 5, and 6. And I can't verify these because of the records and stuff, but what I got a kick out of was in 2006, we did 88 transfers. And on the back, I got this year's, or last year's, we did 305 transfers out of the hospital. So, and Decker handed me the mileage, we average a little over 200 miles a day on a rig over a year. So that's why our expenses keep going up. We're doing so many more transfers out of this hospital than we've ever done before.
What's the reimbursement for transfers?
It's better than 911s, but it's like everything else. Medicaid, if it's a Medicaid transfer, they'll only pay us so much out of it. Medicare pays pretty good on it, but we still gotta adjust down some. But on 911s, we don't get hardly anything out of it. That's just the way it is, so. Any other
Well, you know,
questions?
Tom, about this, what county's gone, the other county that Woodbury's with, there's Sioux and. Plymouth. They up there must be having issues with getting staff for ambulances. He's been hounding me about having some topics on how guys act.
I've been getting a lot. Siouxland used to have a very good paramedic service up there. Now Midwest has taken over. Siouxland paramedics are gone. Well, all Midwest is doing is the transfers. They don't do any 911s. So now what they've done is they're taking all the transfers and now they're coming back to everybody else and saying, you have to find your own 9 people for 911. So I get a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails wondering what, how our system works, what we're paying and this and that, but they have a complete mess up there because of that. And, Midwest, they just will not do any 911s up in that area. They'll take all the transfers.
No guaranteed money.
No guaranteed money. And that's leaving the communities up there in a mess, and they're scrambling.
Yeah, he says you may wait a long time for an ambulance.
Yeah.
See,
So.
Green County's going through transition right now too, because the guy that had private service over there, he's getting ready to retire.
Danny Moreland's retiring, and it's up for sale.
And what are they?
They're talking about going to county. I talked
Going
to
back to
Pete
county.
Barlow at the last Region 12 meeting, he said they're talking about the county possibly taking that.
Yeah.
on.
That's what, I've got a couple questions from from the hospital in Green County, how our service runs, because that's what they've been hearing rumors about, they might go county and just questions.
Well, it'll cost Greene County a lot more money, because they've been getting by pretty reasonably
Yeah.
for years.
They're buying the ambulance and that's it.
They've been buying the ambulance, and they would give Dennis $50,000 a year.
Yeah, it was in the last budget year, I think it was 150 that they total, they finished up with.
They gave,
Yeah, they moved it up the
They
last
moved it
budget
up.
year.
oh, really?
Yeah,
And
it
we
finally went,
branded-
but you're right, up previously to that point, was.
And we've heard that before, that corporations will come in and buy out the county ambulance and, for $50,000 a year. And then 4 years from now, it's, $250,000 plus they take all the income, so that's their way of getting them in. They come to counties and say, we'll do this real cheap for you, look at the money you'll save, and then they keep. Dan Becker will tell you about Cass counties all day long, about how they started out there with, for $40,000 a year, they would cover Cass County, then even bought a lot of Cass County's equipment. Well, then the next year they miscalculated, they went up to 60, and I think Dan said last time he talked to them, Cass County doesn't have the population we do, they're paying over $200,000 a year now. That's what Dan said. And plus, they take all the income that comes in too, so.
And they provide ambulance
They
and
provide,
building?
they provide ambulance, they do the billing, but,
The building. They provide a building and the
no,
ambulances?
they provide the ambulances, and you have to provide the building.
Okay.
So, in Audubon County, they're still running an ambulance from the fire department, right? For
Mhm.
E911s?
Yes.
It is
Midwest.
Midwest doing all the.
They're doing all the transfers out of there. They still call us a lot if we have time, because truthfully, they like us better than they did down there. But, lots of times we don't have a crew available. That's what we've got, but, yeah, the Audubon Fire does all their 911s, and,
That's basically volunteer, right?
that is volunteer.
So they're not a full paramedic group or nothing?
They are not, they are trying to get to be what they call provisional paramedic, because they do have a guy, the guy that's running Audubon right now, Dusty, I can't think of Dusty's last name.
That's the,
is a paramedic. He just got certified, and they're trying to get set up where if he's on, they can run as a paramedic crew, but.
I used to work for West Central, does that.
But they're trying to figure out what to do too. And that Will Sowers that works for us, he lives down there. He says there's a mess down there. They're trying to figure out how to get 911 service to everybody around there. So,
We have a unique system here, we've got a good system
Yeah.
out there. And we have, one thing about in Carroll County, any part, corner of county, you're probably gonna have somebody at your door within a few minutes.
I don't know if they-
With first responders and stuff like that.
I don't know if anybody told you, but for a few years ago, they were kicking out a lot of money to get up what they called to EMS 2020 standards. And Carroll County never got a dime of it because it was being modeled off of Carroll County. Carroll County, and there's another county in eastern Iowa. And we were the model that they were using, so. Anything else?
Thanks, Darrell, sorry we got
Thanks,
sidetracked.
gentlemen. No, that's all right.
Thank you, Darrell.
Have a good day.
Keep it up.
Thank you, Courtney.
Okay, with that, we'll go back up to item number 5, is the payrolls, and that's in your packet.
Light run. Insurance again.
I didn't see anything there shrewd.
No, nothing popped out to me, a lot of salt moving again.
Yeah.
Thank God May's getting here.
If there are no comments on the payables, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second it?
Got a motion and a second to approve the payables. Any other discussion? Now, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That will jump down to item number 7, is a fireworks permit, and that's for Joseph Cook, 16275 Jade Avenue. And that's in the packet also.
Is year 2 or 3 for him?
He's been regular.
I think he's been regular.
I'll make a motion to approve the fireworks permit for Joseph Cook.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Now, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Signature on that.
That will go down to item number 8, is the Class B beer permit for Back Pocket Brewing. This is in July for the rag dry. That's in our packet also.
We do have a map here. There's quite a bit of stuff here,
Well, I looked up that address, I couldn't figure out what was going on here.
but I'll pass the map around here so you guys have an idea.
We do need to change the expiration date on it again.
Yeah, it's January 1st, 1900.
That's a state thing, that's not ours, that's nothing we do.
I'm surprised they haven't got that fixed right. It's been
I'm
that way
not.
for a long, long time.
I'm not surprised.
No. So you can see.
100 years.
You can see the map here, so I'll just pass that around.
118?
Why get in a hurry?
Yeah. Looks like a
So
typical
this
state
is-
function to me.
Not sure, like,
Yeah, boy.
I'm guessing it's Union Township, I don't know what section it's in. It's that detailed in here. Yeah, it's 33,126,300.
It's an acreage, it's Larry Young's acreage.
Okay.
And for some reason, I still missing my book.
Oh, here we go, yeah. I don't know if it says like section.
Where'd you put it?
Somebody took it, hey.
But this Larry Young signed a property usage and release agreement to this Back Pocket Brewing. So it's gonna start July 22nd of 18 and is scheduled to end on July 23rd of 2018.
kids used to mow that.
Well, I haven't mowed it a few times. Isn't that's on the Green County line?
Oh, that's right.
Come out to the road you turn to Ralston, north. The first place that's accessible from the highway.
Right,
like
right
town.
right west of the cemetery, south side.
West of the cemetery?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I pulled it up on.
It's right next to where Chantel just brought.
Yeah,
To,
yeah. She's on the other side. She's on the
she's
south
on the
side.
south side, yes.
Chantel, she brought her over down
Oh, Chantel Road.
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah, it's even her time, she's moving out of Manny.
Is she gonna be in Carroll County?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's moving to Carroll County, yeah.
Yeah, where was she today?
I'll find out when I go out there today.
Hot must be going on.
Are there any issues with that?
No.
I don't have
think
any, I don't
there's
have
that.
any issues.
I'll make a motion that we approve the dirt permit. Back pocket.
Back pocket.
Motion on the floor, need a second?
Second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second, any other discussion? Now, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, I do need it. Can you just put a stamp on this
Okay.
copy here? And I did change the date.
Oh, you changed this already?
Yes.
Double check it, make sure we got it right. Yep, that's right.
So what do we get for that for a permit like that? Is that still 150, 160?
Not sure if the dollar amount's on here or not.
That may not be the last one of those either.
No, you can ask Joanne. I don't know. I don't see the dollars on any of these. It's not a lot.
Okay, with that, we'll go down to item number 9, and that's to review the county ordinance number 27, temporary food stands. What this kind of brought this kind of to light, I got a call from Katie Mason from Coon Rapids last week in regards to the ordinances for serving this food stands. And Joanne, she put together a sample of the one we had for 2006. And basically, this is pertaining to Ragbri also.
So basically, we have to have one rewrote with different dates.
Yeah. I have to John put something together for that.
Yeah, and he should probably check with Ragbri, make sure that they don't have any,
Stipulations.
yeah, they haven't changed things since 2006.
The thing that kind of amazes me, it doesn't have any in here what the cost of that permit is it?
I think so.
Well, they pay that fee to the state, so.
Yeah, so that's what it says, goes to the state.
Yeah, being, where it used to come to us, means we did our own food inspection, right?
Yeah.
Now we don't.
We don't see anything from food anymore. But this is also all beverages.
So at this point.
You know, wasn't there, we had, the Ragbri went through after that too, didn't they?
Ragbri went through Carroll after this. but
Yeah, I
not
was gonna
through
say,
Coon Rapids.
right,
They came through Carroll.
yep. So I wonder what happened then?
Why are we doing this? When we did this in 2006, didn't we have food permits and now the state has them? Should it be the state's responsibility?
That very well could be. I was just wondering the same thing. Why?
You know, Crawford County brought it up to ask what we were doing too here a couple weeks ago. and-
Well, he called me one
Yeah.
day too, and I was kind of under the weather, and I said, well, we got an ordinance, because I remember we did the ordinance, but after, I kind of questioned it after, if we don't do the, like Neil said, we don't do the food inspection anymore,
Why are we even doing this? It should be the state's responsibility. so-
It should be the state's responsibility, and they have to work with the RAGBRAI.
Mhm.
Well,
And,
this would cover any commercial, it says for the sale of food, beverages, services, or distributes any other merchandise without a commercial booth permit.
But we're not getting a fee for it.
it'd be interesting, when did they go through, Carroll? This is 2006, so.
Yeah.
No,
It had to been maybe 2010, I'm guessing.
10, 11.
My son was a baby, because I remember walking around.
But they also
pushing him
went,
in
they
the
went through
stroller.
Temple too, one time, that's since this.
This ordinance is just covering the rural areas anyway, so.
And that's all we'd be concerned about. I know that.
I tend to agree with Neil, why, we don't do the inspection anymore.
Yeah.
But you'd let John.
Obviously, I mean, we haven't done anything the last couple of times it's has come through Carroll, so, Carroll County.
I think that might be a wise.
In this,
individual
that section
job
4
to see
talks
what he
about
says.
See what he
where
says.
it,
But he says it's their jurisdiction, they can take care of it.
But you had somebody call you?
Katie Mason called me last week, she's from Coon Rapids, and she's the one that brought it to my attention. About
Getting a
an
permit?
ordinance, a permit, or a
Well, and did I see somewhere where they're having meetings on this food vendors?
Yeah, I heard it on the radio
Yeah,
this
they got a book this big that goes out to those cities, and I'm surprised she didn't look in there
There's
and
one
see.
in Manning, and I'm not sure where.
And one of
the
them
other
was the
is.
food permit.
Yeah, I mean, it should
So
be
I
in
think
that.
the state's probably taking care of it, I don't know that we need to be doing
Yeah,
that.
I don't think we need to take action unless we have to. That's the way I would.
We have the authority.
and they
Yeah.
did the applications for the unincorporated areas in Arcadia, or, we didn't even handle the applications the last
Sure.
time around, the cities did.
Yeah, Arcadia and Manning,
Yeah.
according to that.
There's a job on it, see what
Yeah.
it says.
I don't think we have anything to do with it either. All we have to do with it is make sure that the roads get blocked and.
Well, and you can see, like, we just did a permit, a beer
Second.
permit for those people for RAGBRAI, which,
That's different than food.
yep, yeah, but I would think they'd have to apply with the state for the food, since we don't do the food anymore.
Right.
That's what I would think.
I'll let
No,
Alfred-
I'm not an attorney either,
Yeah.
so.
We'll see where we need to go.
Okay. Just gonna put that on hold for now.
Yeah, let's put them hold.
Yeah, I'll give it a
Hold
forever.
forever, this we can visit with him. Okay, that we're down to item 10, of the manure management annual updates. We got 4 of them today. The first one is in section 9 of Ewell Township. That one they changed crop rotation. And then the other 3 are in section 7 of Pleasant Valley Township, sections 2 in section 7 of Pleasant Valley Township, and 1 in section 13 of Arcadia Township. And all 3 of those are the same entity. They added acres, changed crop rotation, and are using manure analysis. So that's our manure management plans for this week. And then we got the next item on the agenda is the FAA resolution receipt. We received a letter from Carroll last week regarding the new ordinance, or the resolution for the airport airspace. And
I will make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of that letter.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to
Acknowledge receipt.
acknowledge receipt of that resolution. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, with that, we'll go to committee reports. Rich, you want to start off?
Sure. Double check here. All right, last week, daycare. Had that on Monday. Some of the highlights, their full-time positions they're doing pretty good. They're having a fundraising raffle. They have iCub tickets that they will be raffling off, a weekend package at Okoboji. They've had some drain issues up on the roof. They should have them solved now and stop some leaking issues, and they've had their share of leaking issues over the years. And they're doing a promote childcare. It was a week of the young child last week. Other than that, things, the payables look good. They're in good financial position, it appears to me. Next, on Tuesday, I had the ambulance meeting. Nope, I take that back. Wednesday, I did the jail. And I think everybody was there. I thought that was very informative. I like the jail committee's done a good job moving that forward. I guess I was a little bit surprised that we didn't have a next step already, but it seemed like a pretty tight window, because if I am not correct, the way I understood it was, if we don't get it to vote by October, we won't do it this year. Is that kind of the gist? Because November,
August.
December's are, we don't want it on the general.
August.
August?
Yeah, you can't have an election in October. It'd be, yeah, August, I think they said. Which means you'd have a month and a half at least prior to August that you'd wanna be educating people.
Right.
So then you're in July, June. We're almost in May.
Yep.
That seems really tight to me. but
It
that-
does seem tight, that's why.
I'm not an expert either.
I don't,
Um,
yeah.
A lot of details to work out yet.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was okay. Then on Thursday, I went with Darrell down to Manning, and you guys were in on part of that conversation. I still got lots of different feelings about that. I did not attend the legislative forum on Saturday. I was out of town. I couldn't do anything about it. This week, I have nothing in front of me, and I am going to be going out of town most of the week anyway.
Dean?
Yeah, I didn't have any official meetings. Attended the jail committee meeting, and I thought that was very informative. That's the first time I've really been involved in any of those, and I think we got a ways to go yet. I think they, by the appearances of the Shive Hattery, I think they want to, get this thing going, and I think they have alternative motives to do that. The quicker that they can get this thing going, and better off for them, obviously. But I think we've got a little ways to go there. It was very informative, though. I enjoyed it. Went to the legislative forum, and Mark Siegebart was not there, but Brian did a good job covering for everything that's going on. He did say that they could probably extend this thing into May, before the session's over with. And I don't think there was anything that new came up, really. I mean, he just kind of updated he conducted a couple of polls or surveys about whether or not,
I thought that was interesting.
yeah,
I did too.
whether or not people wanted,
Got the cameras and.
yeah,
Well, he took
height,
that.
yeah, the cameras, and I think there was only one that said they didn't want it. Otherwise, everybody was okay with it, as long as,
Needs some fine tuning.
yeah, as long as it's done for a reason other than to raise
Revenue-
revenue.
revenue source.
Yeah. So if there was a situation where, there's at this certain intersection, there was a lot of accidents, people running red lights or something like that, then, it's probably warranted. But otherwise, it was a good session. It was well attended, I thought. This week, I have nothing going on yet. That could change, of course. That's my report.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Yep.
Okay, I kind of want to go over the legislative update of April 19th, and a nice thing that I read in there is that Senate, as far as the budget, includes full funding for commercial and industrial property tax backfill and standing appropriations, and that's
Right.
the this thing, yes. And Supervisors resolution publication, it looks like they might take some action on letting us publish less of our proceedings. Obviously, there is a motion and a review and saying that you have to publish everything that involves a public measure such as a bond issue. And on Monday, I did do the RSVP signing checks and the foster grandparent signing checks. On Wednesday, the Coalition Human Services meeting was canceled, I guess, due to the weather. That afternoon, had a communities for, Thursday afternoon, had I guess I had the jail committee then. And as far as the jail committee, I do think we have a long ways to go. What I took away from it is nobody wants jail in their backyard if we decide to go to Greenfield. There's several new ideas that were brought up, new perspectives, and I think you're all there, but I think I think this is good because it's a lot cheaper to make changes now than after construction started or even plans start. So the more planning we do ahead of time, the better off we are. So it's a good time to challenge each other's ideas or compliment them, whichever the case may be. A lot of solutions can be reached now. And Jeff Hale was there again from the, and I think he's doing a great job. But I still think that we definitely need to include him when we do the bidding process for the financing of it, if we have such a thing. On Thursday, had the Community Partnership for Protecting Children, CPPC meeting. During the public forum session, Regina and Gangia, New Opportunities, thanked us for sponsoring the mentor program and said it's going along very well. Molly Scott gave her coordination report, basically his activities and meetings she attended. Third quarter reports already discussed, everything was very good. We approved Region 12 again as the fiscal agent for the coordinator. And we reviewed the mini grant request form and approved it for use again. And the budget grant for FY19 was also reviewed and approved. That is don't have anything planned yet on the docket yet for this week.
Okay. Gene?
Okay, Monday I did the radio and the newspaper, and then on Tuesday we had CADC. It was our annual board meeting. She went over a report on IEDC Fed form that she went to out in DC. This is the one where they do a lot of talk about the federal funds that we get here in the region, and a lot of them come through Region 12. And surprised me, the majority of them have got increases in them and do not have any decreases in them, which was a surprise. So that was good. They talked about the business retention and visits. They've got 7 that are completely completed. They'll be completing that program up. And then they talked about the retail trade analysis report. And I think you all got a copy of where that sales tax report you could download. And there's a lot of information on that. But she was talking about having one done since Kmart's been gone, and really see what impact it's had. That is not going to be able to happen because that all was since fiscal year 18, so we won't be able to find that out for a while. She talked about the access to Washington, that they've got some topics there, broadband, DOT, and natural gas. And Congressman King was in town Friday. There was an invite on that they were going to meet with him down at the chamber, and I was not able to go to that. One of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about is called a pitch contest. They're looking at doing a deal. This is just in the preliminaries yet, where someone presents their business plan and they judge it, and if they have a decent business plan, that they will set them up for like a year free access to a retail storefront and help them out get started. There's programs that are being done like this throughout the area. They are working with some business owners that probably would be willing to help support that, to get somebody in these places. and they're looking at trying a project like that, but they're just in the process of getting that put together.
Sounds like Shark Tank.
Huh?
Sounds like
Yeah,
Shark
kind of
Tank.
Shark
only
Tank, there you
the
go.
Financial via
Interesting.
business run.
Some of the things they're looking at, they had some project work out at Ashwood, some small industrial and retail, they're changing that, looking at changing the way that's looked at out there. They have a couple of projects, one is a retail one of the smaller communities, and also an industrial project for one of the smaller communities that they're working with. Talked about their housing program, Alliant Energy, in regard to their gas, that they do have more available than what we still utilize yet. That was pretty well took care of that. Then on, this thing goes off too quick for me. Wednesday, I was at the jail committee meeting. I think there was enough said on that. That was a very good meeting. Then on Friday, I was up at Cherokee for the Yes Center board meeting. Right now, our numbers are way down. Too bad weather for kids to go out and play and get in trouble. So.
That'll change.
Yeah, but we're really, it's gotten to the point where we did change our rates back up to another $25 more for member counties to keep that finances going. As the day we were there, they did have some people coming in, I think 3 of them from the BIA. So we'll see how that goes from there. We did get our state certification again for a year. They only had one issue wrote up, and that was in regard to a medical form, that they used the wrong form. We have 2 part-time people quit. She has not replaced them due to kind of the low numbers yet. They're averaging 3 transports per day, so that's doing real well. And the worst part is I can't read our assistant director had a young lady come in and set a record. In 47 seconds, she got her stripped down and got her into her suicide blanket. 47 seconds. So she had a report on that.
That's when you're just wearing panties.
As a matter of fact, the day we were up there, our meeting got put on hold for a while. Our director had to go sit on a hearing. They had one come in the day before, which just must have been
Vicious.
holy terror.
Yes.
She was invited to prom, she was going to prom, but she wasn't going to get to go to prom. Anyway, for the month, we averaged 3.73, so, and that pretty much takes care of that. Then on Saturday, I did go to legislative forum, and I think there's been enough said there. I thought it was, Brian did do a very good job covering that whole thing. It was a little different type of presentation, but it was good. This week, I have House and Council meeting with Head Start tomorrow night, and then on Thursday, I have a board meeting for Head Start. I was planning on going to cabin open house, but I'm not gonna get there Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's my week.
Cabin open house.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gene. Last week, had the jail meeting on Wednesday, and pretty much enough, a lot said on that. I think my thoughts are there, we got a little ways to go before we can hammer things out. Just the actual footprint of that, there's a lot of details to be worked through there yet. And then on Thursday, went and signed checks at Region 12. Also got a call from Katie Mason on the ordinance, for the food ordinance from Coon Rapids. She gave me a call last week, and I told her to get a hold of Joanne. And then Doug Carpenter also called me for the White Rock, Coon Rapids letter that we're putting together, so. And then I had the legislative forum on Saturday. One of the things that was brought up there too that I might add is the sales tax on the internet. Talk a little bit about that, trying to get, he didn't know if anything happened this year, but it's something he wanted to get on the agenda to get things more on a level playing field as far as sales tax there. And also, after I got done there, I came to Carroll and Rance Marins and ran into Randy Drees. He lives out by the county farm. He had some concerns about all the trees and that in the fence line and on the terraces on the county farm. And he said we need to do a lot of trimming. I think I want to visit with Dave on that and maybe have that as a winter project this winter and see if we can get that taken care of and addressed. But he's concerned about the trees growing in the fence lines and on the terraces. So, and that was my week last week. This week I've got radio, and then I'm gonna visit with John on that ordinance for Ragbri. I'll visit with him a little bit on that this week. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, one other thing, Ed, I don't know if I reported this last week or not, but, you know, the day I had surgery, they had that meeting out to the White House on DC with
Oh,
the
yeah.
supervisors.
21st, yeah.
Yeah, hey, how'd that go?
Never happened.
It never happened.
What happened?
They had a snowstorm out there and shut the city down. Nothing happened.
They fly out there?
Some of them were out there.
Were out
Denny,
there.
Denny got to Omaha and his flight got canceled, so he got his money reimbursed. But like, I know Barry Anderson and Berlin Matthews from Clay County were out there. Of course, they went out a day earlier, gonna do some tour and stuff.
Yeah.
They said even the museums and everything shut down.
No,
There was
jeez.
nothing. So that never happened. Now, Barry did say that he went to that NACO meeting the night before, and he was very impressed with NACO. Very impressed. Matter of fact, to the point that he's thinking about signing up for one of the committees. So, but yeah, that meeting never happened.
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering how that went.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, it didn't.
Okay, Courtney, do you have anything to add?
Nothing for next week.
Okay. We'll stay tuned.
Yeah.
There'll be something between now and then, don't worry.
I'm sure there will be.
So, yes.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries.